because I remember when I was playing against Liverpool, the mighty Reds, and somebody had said a racist remark. Somebody, well, I'll say his name if that's all right. Is that all right? Kenny Dalglish. Kenny, out of everybody, Scotsman. I mean, he said some bad things, and I accepted it. But when I got off the pitch, I just wanted to break everything there. I felt so angry. I now wanted to go back and I wanted to fight him. And, at the end of the day, I realized that don't get angry. Best thing to do is to laugh and smile and walk away. Make friends, don't make enemies. That's how I handled that situation. Some say it was right, some say it was wrong.
John Fashanu, a prominent black footballer in the 1980s and 1990s, faced relentless racial abuse throughout his career. And before we dive deeper, make sure to like and subscribe for more powerful football stories. His journey reflects a harsh era in English football where racism was openly expressed by fans and, at times, shockingly tolerated. And despite his talent and physical dominance, Fashanu was often judged by his skin color rather than his performances. The abuse he endured went far beyond normal criticism and became a constant psychological battle. Stadiums were hostile environments for black players during this period. Fashanu's career unfolded under intense pressure few today can fully imagine. From monkey chants to racist slurs thrown from the stands, Fashanu regularly endured dehumanizing treatment on match days. Opposition fans targeted him not just to distract him but to humiliate and intimidate him publicly. These moments were rarely punished by authorities, which allowed such behavior to continue unchecked. The lack of strong action from football governing bodies sent a message that racism was part of the game. For players like Fashanu, silence from officials hurt almost as much as the abuse itself. He was expected to perform while absorbing hatred week after week. Racism was not limited to opposition supporters, as Fashanu later revealed that he also faced discrimination from within the football community. Some teammates and staff made racially insensitive remarks, creating an environment where he never truly felt safe or respected. Being isolated inside your own dressing room took a heavy emotional toll. These experiences show that racism in football was deeply rooted, not just a problem in the stands. Fashanu often felt he had to prove himself more than others just to be treated equally. That constant pressure shaped both his career and personality. The media also played a damaging role during this era, often portraying black players using stereotypes rather than focusing on their skill. Fashanu was sometimes labeled as aggressive or problematic, reinforcing racial bias in public perception. These narratives influenced how fans and clubs viewed him. Instead of celebrating his strength and goal-scoring ability, criticism was magnified. Such coverage contributed to a culture where black players were scrutinized more harshly. It added another layer of injustice to an already difficult career. Despite everything, Fashanu enjoyed success at clubs like Wimbledon, where he was a key figure during their famous FA Cup run. His performances proved his quality and resilience in the face of constant adversity. He refused to be silenced or driven out of the game by racism. Each goal and strong display became an act of defiance. His presence on the pitch challenged stereotypes and forced people to confront their biases. Success did not erase the abuse, but it showed his mental strength. After his playing career, Fashanu became more vocal about the racism he experienced, refusing to let those stories be forgotten. He spoke openly about the damage racism caused to players' mental health. His honesty helped shed light on issues many suffered in silence. By sharing his experiences, he contributed to conversations that pushed football toward change. His voice mattered at a time when few former players were willing to speak out. This bravery extended beyond the pitch. John Fashanu's story is a reminder of how far football has come and how far it still needs to go. His experiences exposed the ugly reality of racism that shaped English football for decades. While today's game is more diverse and aware, his struggles should never be ignored or minimized. Remembering players like Fashanu honors those who endured abuse so future generations would not. His legacy is not just about goals and machas but about resilience and truth. It stands as a powerful lesson in football history. When John Fashanu signed for Millwall FC in 1984, he walked straight into one of the most hostile environments in English football. The club's supporters were notorious for their racism and made it clear he was not welcome. From his earliest appearances, he was subjected to relentless abuse from the stands. This abuse was not subtle or occasional, but constant and aggressive. It followed him every time he stepped onto the pitch. Millwall became the setting for some of the worst racism he would face. One of the most shocking aspects of his time at Millwall was the throwing of bananas from the crowd. These acts were deliberately humiliating and intended to dehumanize him. Alongside this, Fashanu received death threats that went far beyond football rivalry. The atmosphere was one of intimidation rather than support. Such behavior was often ignored or normalized during that era. It left players like Fashanu feeling exposed and unprotected. Millwall fans even had a semi-official chant that embodied their defiance and insularity. The chant symbolized a culture that rejected outsiders, especially black players. Hearing thousands of voices united in hostility was psychologically draining. It reinforced the idea that racism was embedded within parts of football culture. For Fashanu, this was not just noise, but a constant reminder of exclusion. And the chant echoed the wider acceptance of racist attitudes at the time. The abuse did not end in the stands, as hostility also existed inside the club. Fashanu later revealed that some of his own teammates were against him when he arrived. Instead of support, he faced isolation within the dressing room. This betrayal hurt deeply because teammates are supposed to be a source of unity. It showed that racism was not just external, it was present behind closed doors as well. One particularly disturbing incident involved his clothes being covered in black spray paint in the changing room. This act was deliberately symbolic and deeply offensive. It was meant to mock his skin color and assert dominance. Such behavior created a toxic environment that made daily work unbearable. Fashanu had to endure this without meaningful intervention. The incident stayed with him long after his playing days. Another defining moment occurred during a match at Goodison Park as Fashanu went to take a throw-in. He was racially abused by 3 young boys in the crowd. They were only 7 or 8 years old, yet they were repeating hateful language. What disturbed him most was not just the words. It was the realization of how early racism was being taught. Even more upsetting was the reaction of the adults with those children. Their father and uncle were present and laughing as the abuse continued. This moment highlighted how racism was passed down through generations. It was no longer just about football fans losing control. It was about values being normalized within families. For Fashanu, this incident cut deeply. Fashanu reacted strongly to what happened at Goodison Park. He reported the incident to the police, making a clear statement that such behavior was unacceptable. At the time, this was a rare and bold move for a footballer. Most players were expected to stay silent and move on. His reaction showed how seriously he took the issue. Although he chose not to press charges, he still wanted accountability. Instead, he requested that the police speak directly to the families involved. His aim was education rather than punishment. He hoped to stop the cycle of abuse from continuing. This decision reflected his understanding of the deeper roots of racism and also showed restraint and responsibility. Beyond these specific incidents, Fashanu endured general abuse at countless matches. Swearing and spitting were common occurrences directed at him. Monkey impersonations and racist chants rang out from the terraces. These acts were designed to break him mentally. They created an atmosphere of constant hostility wherever he played. Fashanu noted that the abuse was often worse when playing against teams from the north of England. Certain stadiums had reputations for extreme behavior. Players knew in advance which matches would be the hardest to endure. This anticipation added to the mental strain. It meant preparing not just physically, but emotionally. The roots of this trauma went back even further to his childhood. Growing up in Norwich, John and his brother Justin were among the only black children in the area. They experienced what Fashanu described as pretty heavy racial abuse. This included negative and social exclusion. Racism was a part of their lives long before professional football. These early experiences shaped how both brothers viewed the world. Constant abuse affected their confidence and sense of belonging. It also hardened them at a young age. Football became both an escape and another battleground. The pain they carried into adulthood was deeply ingrained. The long-term impact of racism pushed Fashanu to take action beyond playing. He became a founder member of the anti-racism campaign, Kick It Out. The organization aimed to challenge discrimination across football. His involvement came from lived experience, not theory. He wanted to ensure future players faced less abuse. Kick It Out became a platform to confront behavior that had been ignored for decades. Fashanu's voice added credibility and urgency to the campaign. He understood how silence had allowed racism. So thrice speaking out was his way of breaking that cycle. It marked a shift from suffering to resistance. In later years, Fashanu continued to speak openly about his experiences. On shows like Celebrity SAS, he discussed the lasting emotional damage caused by racism. He also spoke about how it affected his family. His reflections were raw and deeply personal. He paid particular attention to the impact racism had on his brother Justin. The abuse they endured together left scars that never fully healed. By sharing these stories publicly, Fashanu ensured they would not be forgotten. His honesty forced uncomfortable conversations. It remains a powerful reminder of football's troubled past. John Fashanu's story stands as a powerful reminder of the strength required to survive in an era where racism was openly tolerated in football. His experiences were not isolated moments, but part of a wider culture that harmed countless players. Remembering his journey helps ensure those struggles are not erased. It also reminds fans why accountability matters. His resilience deserves recognition beyond statistics and trophies. His voice still echoes today. The racism Fashanu endured shaped his life both on and off the pitch. While he achieved success, the emotional toll was immense and long-lasting. His willingness to speak openly has helped expose truths many preferred to ignore. These stories force football to confront its past honestly. Progress begins with acknowledgement. Fashanu played a key role in that process. What makes his story even more impactful is how early racism entered his life. From childhood to professional football, the abuse never fully stopped, yet he continued to push forward rather than retreat. That determination is a lesson in mental strength. It shows the human cost behind the game. His journey reflects courage. Under pressure, Fashanu's role in founding Kick It Out shows how pain can be transformed into purpose. Instead of remaining silent, he chose to fight for change. His actions helped lay the groundwork for today's anti-racism efforts. The campaign stands as part of his legacy. It represents hope born from hardship. Change often begins with those who suffered most. Modern football may look more inclusive, but Fashanu's experiences remind us why vigilance is still needed. Racism has not disappeared, it has only changed form. His story urges players and fans to remain vocal. Silence once allowed abuse to thrive. Speaking out now is essential. By sharing his experiences on public platforms, Fashanu ensured these stories reached new generations. He refused to let history be rewritten or in his honesty, he keeps uncomfortable truths alive. That bravery continues to educate and challenge audiences. It is an act of lasting impact. John Fashanu's legacy goes beyond football achievements. It lives in conversations about equality, respect, and accountability. His struggles helped shape a better future for others. Remembering his story honors those who endured in silence. It also challenges the sport to keep moving forward. His journey will always matter.